Back on this Tuesday, getting ready to go here. Just a second, we'll get everything loaded up with Clout Hub and Rumble and some of the other social media platforms, and then we will get going very quickly here. Got a lot to talk about today, as we normally do. So, all right, here we go. I can see that Cloud Hub is up and running. If you will, please go ahead and share this so everybody knows that we are here. That would be great. And then we can get started. And Rumble, as always, the last to come up and start running. But, it gets there. It gets there eventually. All right. So today we are going to talk about something sweet, something we all love. And as I put on the little introduction here, sugar. No, no, not my sugar. All right. So why are we going to talk about sugar? Well, because for one thing, everybody, most everybody, loves sugar. And why shouldn't they? Sugar is so sweet. It's just wonderful. So why wouldn't you love sugar? And should we love sugar? Is it always a good thing to do? Well, we're gonna talk about that today and see if there's something else that we should be doing. All right, so let's get started on this. Okay. Slowly it turns. What is sugar besides just being sweet? Sugar is the generic name for sweet tasting soluble carbohydrates, many of which are used in food. Simple sugars are also called monosaccharides, including glucose, fructose, and galactose. Now, let's look at some of those that we may or may not be familiar with. Do we need sugar? We need sugars to maintain our health, and they can also bring us relaxation and pleasure. And I have that chocolate bar there because most everybody loves chocolate and loaded with sugar. Sugar is an umbrella term for a large group of carbohydrates. As I've said, they're naturally occurring in many foods, but are added in substantial quantities in many processed foods. And that's where we can really start getting into trouble. Now, glucose is one of the body's two key energy sources. The other is fat. Glucose is sometimes known as blood sugar when it's measured inside the body. It's an energy supplying substance that the human body and brain can directly utilize. Excess glucose is stored in the body in different ways and can be converted into liver glycogen and muscle glycogen, and then released into the blood to supply energy when needed. It can also be converted into fat, and that's where it's not so good for us at that point. Fructose is a sugar that's abundantly present in fruits, honey, and sweet vegetables such as beets, potatoes, carrots, and onions. It's the sweetest of all sugars, and it's 1.7 times sweeter than sucrose. Fructose can be directly used for energy in the body, and excess fructose can be converted to glycogen, stored like glucose, so it's mainly converted to fat. Okay, so you don't want to get too much of a good thing, I guess, is what we're trying to say. Eating fruits in appropriate moderation is beneficial and harmless to the human body because the sugar in fruit isn't like free sugars such as granulated sugar, but it's encapsulated inside the cells as the cell walls of plants prevent fructose from being absorbed by the body too quickly. So, choose a fruit in moderation over other types of sweet things that contain sugar. Sucrose is derived from sugar canes. Common sugars used in the food industry, such as white sugar, brown sugar, and rock sugar, are all basically composed of sucrose. Lactose, we've all heard about that, mainly derived from milk, is beneficial to the health of the intestines. However, some people lack lactose in their intestines and can't digest lactose. For them, after drinking milk, they'll develop lactose intolerance, and this may cause diarrhea. Polysaccharides are sugar chains composed of many glucose molecules. Starch and cellulose in rice and noodles are examples of polysaccharides. Cellulose comes from grains, fruits, and vegetables and is very important to the human body's health. And you may want to go back and look over this again because I'm talking to you about a lot of terms that you may or may not be familiar with. Now, is sugar addictive? In a 2007 study by researchers at the University of Bordeaux in France, conducted a particular reward experiment with rats. In this experiment, two levers were placed in front of the rats for them to choose freely. Choosing lever C would give them the reward of cocaine, an addictive drug. Choosing S would give them some water with saccharin, which has no calories, just a sweet taste. The rats chose sweetness over cocaine, even when the dose of cocaine was increased. They did another experiment with sucrose and found the same results. Not to say that we're rats, but could we be a little addictive just like rats are to that sweet taste? Sugar is noteworthy as a substance that releases opioids and dopamine and thus might be expected to have addictive potential. That was researchers found that in 2008, a review that was published in the Neuroscience and Behavioral Reviews. Now, I don't know about you, but I know that I crave sugar. The more I eat, the more I want. And it's something that once I back on my sugar and don't think about it, I really don't want it or don't need it, especially, chocolates. But if I do eat chocolates, I look for something that's organic, lower in sugars, and something that is mostly like the darker chocolate is better, supposedly better for you than the milk chocolate. And I eat very small amounts, and we'll talk about that later on. The evidence supports the hypothesis that under certain circumstances, rats can become sugar dependent. This may translate to some human conditions as suggested by the literature on eating disorders and obesities. And it's kind of sad to realize that we may become victim, to becoming addictive. Another later research review came to similar conclusions. At the neurobiological level, the neural substrates of sugar and sweet reward appear to be more robust than those of cocaine, more resistant to functional failures. Okay, so possibly reflecting past selective evolutionary measures for seeking and taking foods high in sugar and calories. This was a 2013 review published in Current Opinion in Clinical Nutrition and Metabolic. Can't see that last one. So there again, most recent found the same type of craving, if you will, same addiction, if you will. Now, does sugar negatively impact your immunity? A person, Dr. Heather Madej, said, known as the sweetest killer and a poison more addictive than drugs, sugar is consumed by virtually everyone. She is a U.S. immunologist during the C19P or plan, IMIC. I'm saying it that way because I'm also on YouTube today. So, sugar is the worst food for your immune system. The worst food for your immune system. Think about that. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition conducted an experiment. After a group of subjects fasted overnight, they took 100 grams of free sugar orally on an empty stomach. As a comparison, another group of subjects took the same amount of starch orally on an empty stomach. The experiment found ingesting free sugars cut the combat power of phagocytes by nearly half. Phagocytes are important immunity cells that protect us by ingesting harmful foreign particles, bacteria, and dead or dying cells. So think about that. The cells that we need, the immunity cells, found that by ingesting the free sugars, it cut the power of those immunity cells. And, as we come upon winter and all of that, would it be helpful for us to cut back on our sugar intake? Well, according to these different reviews and articles, it would appear that the answer could be yes. So the maximum reduction occurred between 1 and 2 hours after ingesting sugar. Even after 5 hours, immunity was still effective or affected. Can you believe that? Even after 5 hours, your immunity was still impacted in a negative way. Now, who would have thought that? All right. So let's just say that you eat a lot of sugar and you eat it throughout the day and every day. Boy, are you really impacting your immunity, according to these articles. In contrast, the control group that ingested starch didn't show a decline in immunity. Therefore, eating a moderate amount of rice, noodles, and steamed bread, who doesn't like bread? Oh my gosh, won't harm the immune system the way that sugar will. Now, I would assume, and maybe incorrectly, but I would assume that if you got bread that was lower in sugar, it's going to be just as good for you as the steamed bread or mostly comparable. Said, however, the negative effect of excessive intake of sugar on the immune system isn't limited to inhibiting the functions of the phagocytes. So, kind of like everything that we need is taken away to protect our immunity when we eat a lot of sugar. A high sugar environment can also cause chronic inflammation and inhibit all aspects of the immune system, including white blood cells, natural killer cells, macrophages. um, yeah, those are hard. I don't even know what that is exactly. And T cells, resulting in a decrease in the comprehensive ability of the human body to recognize and kill germs. Now, I'm going to speak in code, but remember what we were told to take 3 years ago in the form of a uh, jab was supposedly doing some of these same uh, negative impacts on your body. Okay. So, also another study found 50% of the patients that were hospitalized with that same virus a couple of years ago in the United States had diabetes or obesity. So, was it because of a lowered immune system already, right? Then, on top of that, you were given something to a lot of the patients that were told that you needed it. Did that go ahead and damage more of the same type of T cells and other things? And then that's what sent a lot of people to the hospital. I don't know. Now, results of eating too much sugar. Eating too much sugar is known to have several common health effects, such as tooth decay, weight gain, obesity, and diabetes. The increase in blood sugar caused by consuming sugar will also soak the body's cells in a high sugar environment, which will produce advanced glycation in products or ages. It has been shown that ages contribute to increased oxidative stress and inflammatory responses. They also accelerate aging and lead to many chronic degenerative diseases such as diabetes, atherosclerosis, osteoporosis, kidney diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, cancer, and skin degeneration. All of that as we're sitting there enjoying our bars of chocolate, we're doing, according to the articles and the research that I found, we're doing possibly some substantial damage to our health. How much sugar then can I eat? Well, according to the World Health Organization, which I would give a grain of salt to that, but maybe a grain of sugar in this case. The latest dietary guidelines released in 2015, the amount of free sugar should be reduced to less than 5% of the total daily calorie intake and no more than 25 grams, which is 6 teaspoons, in order to avoid obesity, tooth decay, diabetes, heart disease, vascular diseases, and even cancer. And even though I don't really believe too much of what they say, as they've proven themselves not to be reliable, that seems in a lot of respects reasonable. All right, let's see what the American Heart Association has to say. So they recommend that Americans drastically cut back on added sugar to help slow the obesity and heart disease epidemics. They suggest a stricter added sugar limit of no more than 100 calories per day, which they agree with the World Health Organization, which is about 6 teaspoons or 24 grams for most adult women, and no more than 150 calories per day, about 9 teaspoons or 36 grams of sugar for most men. So they're pretty much in agreement as to what you should have on your intake of sugar. So, how do I break my sugar addiction? All right. First thing they suggest here is check the sugar content of every item in your pantry. All right. You want to see how much sugar is in there. And if you start looking at how much sugar is, in your pantry, in your food that you may not have noticed before, I think some of you might be absolutely shocked. And a lot of people say, well, I don't have time to read the labels. Well, it's probably time that you take time to read the labels, right? Because if it can help your health as you're growing older, uh, I'd say it's worth the time. So, okay, check the check your pantry, check the foods that you have now. If they have too much sugar, you can do one or two things. You can throw them away, throw the food out. You could just eat the food and eat less of it, right? That's one thing. Or give it away to somebody who has no problems at all, right? Okay, so you can also eat fewer processed foods to cut down on your sugar and more carbohydrates in the form of vegetables, beans, fruits, nuts, or seeds. Common sense things, right? So food makers can also use sweeteners that aren't technically sugar, a term which is applied only to table sugar or sucrose, but these other sweeteners are in fact forms of added sugar, which aren't necessarily good for you, especially the more you eat, the worse it is for you, right? Because you shouldn't have that much. So agave nectar, dextrose, maltose, brown sugar, evaporated cane juice, malt syrup, cane crystals, fructose, maple syrup, yum, yum. Cane sugar, fruit juice concentrates, molasses. There are some people who cook with molasses to give it more of a sweet taste. Might as well just probably add the sugar. It looks like coconut sugar, glucose, raw sugar, corn sweetener, high fructose corn syrup, sucrose, corn syrup, honey syrup, crystalline fructose, and invert sugar. So all those things, especially if you're using too much of them, are not going to be healthy for you. The average 20-ounce bottle of sugar sweetened soda, lemonade, or iced tea contains about 65 grams of added sugar. And remember, we were talking about the American Heart Association, they were saying for women, you know, it certainly wasn't 65 grams of added sugar that you should have on a daily basis. There are people who drink one, two, and even three soda cans of, cans of soda a day. So imagine how much sugar you're getting when you do that. So these grams of added sugar often come from high fructose corn syrup. That's the equivalent of 16 teaspoons of table sugar. I believe for women it was nine, or no, six. And for men, it was nine. Is that right? So look at how much you're getting. If you were to drink just one 12-ounce can of a sugar sweetened soft drink every day and not cut back on calories everywhere, you would gain up to 15 pounds over 3 years. Oh my gosh. I used to drink sodas when I was a child. We didn't know about this stuff. I would probably have about two a day at least. Not anymore. I don't drink sodas at all. Also, be careful of foods that wear a health halo. Those ones that tell you, they have this health halo that says these are really good foods for you, and they're not. They say they are, but they're really not good for you. For example, one popular cereal advertises that it contains whole grains, fiber, and several antioxidant vitamins like C, E, and beta carotene, but it also contains 18 grams of added sugar, which is 4.5 teaspoons, in just one small bowl. So it's really not that healthy. Keep in mind serving sizes as well. A crunchy granola bar may contain 2 bars per pack. Just one provides 6 grams of added sugar, but if the whole pack is eaten, that number doubles to 12. So you can see how added sugars may quickly add up and how, really you're getting sort of fooled, if you will, by something saying to you, this is healthy, eat up, you'll enjoy it. Yeah, your body may not enjoy it afterwards. So if you refrain from consuming too much sugar, over time the desire to eat sugar is going to go down and will weaken. But if you indulge in eating sugar, then that desire will increase and the next time will be even more difficult. So addictive is what they're saying here. So, some tips on reducing added sugar intake: choose plain yogurt with no added sugar. I use plain yogurt and yogurt that is organic. Oh, it looks like I've cut off some of my pages, but I think you can read that. No added sugar. Stir in fresh or frozen fruit or unsweetened applesauce and a dash of cinnamon. Choose cereals with 5% of the daily value or less of added sugars and add like a sliced ripe banana or berries. Choose water, seltzer water, flavored water like that with no sugar in it's great. Herbal tea, coffee, other beverages with no added sugar. Add a slice of orange, lemon, lime, or cucumber as a subtle flavor boost. So I drink kombucha, which when you're putting in kombucha, when you're making it, it has sort of a high content of sugar. But what's in the kombucha that creates like the bacteria, a SCOBY is what it's called. It will create that SCOBY from the sugar. So it basically takes it out and you're not drinking all that sugar. And it has some great health benefits, as I've talked about before. So when a sweets craving hits, try one of these first. So a 1/4 cup of unsweetened dried fruit, 1 cup of ripe fresh fruit, or 1 ounce square of 75% dark chocolate. When baking, reduce the amount of added sugar by 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup, or reduce the sugar by substituting half the amount with unsweetened applesauce or mashed ripe banana. For example, instead of 1 cup of sugar, use a half a cup of sugar and a half a cup of mashed fruit. That sounds delicious. Now, if you choose to enjoy a favorite treat high in sugar, practice eating a smaller portion than usual. Enjoy it fully by chewing slowly and savoring it. Your taste buds can adjust to sweetness levels, and as you consistently reduce your total sugar intake, you may notice your sweets craving lessen or that certain foods now taste too sweet. So, good advice, for all of us. Again, I have the chocolate that I eat is Alter Eco, Altereco. And usually I try to get the dark chocolate that has 70% more of the dark chocolate. If you look at that, though, the calorie intake on something like that bar is huge. Sometimes, like a whole bar, which is pretty big, is about 400 plus calories. So each piece of the bar comes in like two little pieces, tiny little pieces. And what I do is if I'm craving chocolate or sweets, I will just break off a one of the little cubes, one of the little squares, and have that. And that usually takes care of it. I don't need, half the bar. I don't need two squares. I just need one. It's just to get that little bit of taste, and then I'm fine. So, anyway, I hope this has been helpful to you today. If you would please go ahead and share it. As always, I'm also over on Rumble. If it's easier to share Rumble, just go look for Susan Knowles over there on Rumble. And you might subscribe over there in case I ever get kicked off of YouTube, which they're still looking for things that I did 2 years ago that talked about, the virus, and they're giving me strikes and taking me down on some of the things that were said a long time ago. So they're not going to give up. It's going to get worse. But and right now we have sort of freedom of speech over on Rumble. So you might want to follow me over there, and that way you will always get tips on health and wellness. And as always, ask your doctor what you should do. This is my research. This is what I do for me. And this is what I have found works for me. Will it work for you? I don't know. I know it has worked for other people because I've seen the impact in my research at other people doing this, what they have, how they've been successful. And I'm still on my Mediterranean food plan. Hey, Sissy, how are you? Still on my Mediterranean food plan, and it works really well for me. I've been maintaining my weight. At times, I'll lose a pound or two. I'm not trying to lose the weight, but it's great. All I have to do, even on the Mediterranean plan, is cut back a little, and it's so easy now to lose weight. As I've said, I've lost about 28, 29 pounds at this point from September of last year, and I've kept that off. So I feel very good about that. I feel healthier. My weight's gone down, blood pressure's gone down, cholesterol. I was pre-diabetic. That is all gone now. So, you just have to have that little conversation with your doctor, find out what's best for you, and then go ahead and do that. And you should lead a healthier life. And as we looked at today, cutting back on sugar may be a key element that will help you on your road to health and wellness. So, again, if you will, please go ahead and share that. And until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, Sissy. It was good seeing you today. Take care. God bless everybody. Take care.